Hi, I want to give you 5 ways to improve student engagement during video conferencing, whether you're using Zoom or Google Meets or Webex or Big Blue Button or anything. One of the most difficult things to do is to teach to a bunch of blank squares. If students have turned off their screens, if they're muted, you don't know if you're actually talking to students, and your goal is to educate them and to get them excited about learning, which is really difficult if they're not engaged. So let me get into my 5 tips. Tip 1, don't try to recreate what happens in your regular classroom. If you try to recreate, if you try to make an approximation of what your regular classroom is, it's going to fall flat. It's not going to be as fun. It's not going to be as engaging, and students are going to turn off. So if you're teaching in front of a blackboard, if you're teaching in front of a whiteboard, and you're just running class as if it's a regular class, I don't think that it's going to work as well as it could. Now, there are some things that you can do. There are some activities that you can do that work better remotely than in the real world. So when you're creating your curriculum, when you're altering your curriculum, think about, this can't be an approximation of the regular classroom because it's just not going to be as good. It's just going to feel false. So you have to create something inside of the new medium. So my second tip is to play the medium. So the medium is video, and we've all watched videos to learn things. Normally we go to YouTube and we type in YouTube whatever we want to learn, and we find a video that explains clearly what we want to learn. And we have to play to that medium because that's what we're doing with students. Do you know any YouTubers? Have you found YouTubers or somebody on YouTube that you like watching? If you haven't, what I'd recommend doing is take a pastime that you have, whether it's knitting or garden gnome sculpting or whatever, type it into YouTube and find somebody that you like that explains something about whatever you're interested in. And they probably might have a lot of followers, they might have a lot of views, and really figure out what you like about them. Why do you like this particular garden gnome sculptor? Is it the jokes that they tell? Is it the way that they act in front of the camera? Also find ones that you don't like. So find some YouTubers, find some personalities that you do not like. So these are the things that I like. I like YouTubers or personalities to be themselves, to be genuine. They might have to be a little bigger. Whenever I'm talking about being on video, it's kind of like you're a Shakespearean actor a little bit, and you're thinking about your students or whoever your audience is on YouTube being farther away. They're on the second balcony and they're looking down with their crazy glasses. If students are watching you on devices and the devices are farther away, just think about them watching you on a phone with bad reception. So you need to play to that crowd. So the good YouTubers are normally themselves, but they're a little bigger. Bad YouTubers, bad video personalities, I think put on a false character. They're playing a character, or they're just boring. So once you figure out what you like you have to figure out how to amplify yourself. How can you be the video version of you where students are going to buy in to what you're selling? Because with YouTube, it's all about brand recognition. When you are having a video conference with students, you're trying to, demonstrate the topics that you're working on, but you're also having them buy into your brand. They're buying into who you are. If they feel comfortable and if they feel enjoyment and if they feel entertained from watching you as a person, then they are going to definitely like learning from you. So I would definitely work on that. And this brings us to the hardest thing. I've been recording videos for 6 years, educational and music videos for about 6 years. I'm not the best at it, but I can tell you if I go back and I watch those videos from 6 years ago, it's cringy, brutal, not fun to watch. And I think that as remote teachers or blended or hybrid teachers, we're all in that cringy, brutal, space. If you're not used to talking on camera, talking to students, delivering content through video, then what you make is going to be not great. The way to fast track it, though, to get from, not feeling comfortable on camera and to get to a place where you are doing what you want to do in the moment, you have to watch yourself, which is brutal. It's like, I call it the voicemail paradox. Like, you might think you sound a certain way. You think your voice sounds a certain way. And when you hear yourself on a voicemail for the first time, you're like, who is this? Who is this person? What? Who is this not person with the lisp? I don't know who this is. That's your voice. You have an idea of what your voice is, which you get from like internal vibrations in your head and reflections off of walls and stuff. And you create this picture of what you think you sound like. But when you listen to yourself, you actually hear what you sound like. And you can actually train your brain to remap the idea of what you think you sound like and to match more of what you actually sound like. The same thing is true for video. You have to watch yourself. You have to take notes. It's like you're teaching for the first time. If you're a veteran teacher and you've been teaching for 35 years and you have a doctorate in education, you are back at square one. You're right out of grad school and you're not good. You have to get good. And the best way to get good is to record yourself and reflect, even though it might be difficult. Similar to being a first-year teacher, I think that it really helps to script. Script some things so that if you get out of the way of, thinking about what you're going to do while you're doing it, which you're fine probably in the classroom, but when you're on video, maybe it's a little difficult. So script out some of your lesson topics so that you don't have to worry about what you're saying. You won't get tripped up when you're talking, and you can be more you, which is something that your students are going to like. I think there's a huge energy suck when you're staring at a screen. It's like I'm staring at my screen right now. I see a bunch of boxes. And even if I see all of their faces, like, it's not the same as being in a room with other people and getting the energy back from them. So how do you deal with that? You have to create energy. And that energy can come from things like caffeine. It can come from, doing your yoga, eating your Wheaties, whatever way you can so that you can put out sustained energy for as long as your video conference is. And we can use that energy suck actually to our advantage. So when you're in the classroom, when you're IRL, when you're in real life, things can get a little too crazy. Has it ever happened to you? Have you ever been in a classroom and you're telling a story or you're getting a little goofy and then the kids start getting out of hand and like it becomes this uproarious cacophony of just madness and you're like, oh no, what did I do? This was a bad idea. I should have done that. I won't tell a story for the next period. I need to rein it in. That doesn't happen virtually because they can't feed off of each other's energy. So when you are presenting on video, you can be a little more kooky, a little more, you have to be who you are. So that's who I am. So you have to be, a bigger version of who you are. And if sometimes in real life, if that can get kids out of hand, it's not going to happen remotely. Try to push it. Do an experiment with students. And you can even tell them what you're doing because having that transparency between the teacher and the student about I'm not good at this. I'm starting. You have to tell me how I'm doing. Maybe that kind of communication and that kind of feedback is going to really help. But do an experiment. Do what's called a rip take. A rip take when you're recording a video is like maybe you're on your 30th take of trying to record how to do this thing. You're trying to show, okay, this is, I need to show the students how to fold this piece of paper, and you keep messing up and you keep saying the wrong words. A rip take is when you're just go for it, go so crazy over the top and just be ridiculous. Sometimes a rip take is fun, and sometimes it's fun for students to watch. So do an experiment when you're in your video conferencing. Try to be a little extra. Try to go over the top. Do a rip take on a subject. See how it goes. Try to do a rip take for an extended period of time. Sometimes you'll find that you will maintain student engagement a little longer. You'll get the students to buy in because you are becoming an amplified version of who you are. You can't be me, but you could be you, and you could be a louder version of you. All right, so what else do we have on here? Video quality. It doesn't need to look beautiful, but there are some things that can help. Now, I am in my video recording studio. With my feet, I can change, camera angles. I have really good audio quality, but you don't need to have full HD. But here are some things that could help. raise your laptop a little higher so that it's not pointing right up at your face. Think small. So when I say think small is, remember, you're thinking about the person watching this on their phone that has bad connection. If you are writing on a big board behind you and all of your text is really small, it's easy to see on a computer monitor, but think about that student. So like when I'm doing demos, maybe I get really, really, really close to the camera and I do a demo here. And I'm thinking really small. Think about your space. Think about how the media is going to be consumed. And then just make sure you're getting the clearest audio possible, because your audio is not going to sound good no matter what kind of streaming service you use. So start off with the best possible input you can. Get a good mic, get it close to your face. There's nothing wrong with, there it is. There's nothing wrong with a microphone like this. Just like a regular old headset microphone. You put this on, just make sure you're not wearing your crazy ruffly pirate shirt. Otherwise, it's going to make the microphone really crinkly sounding. But put this on, you have a good signal to noise ratio because the microphone's right here. You're not going to pick up a lot of sounds around you. And, you know, I think that with a good laptop angle is going to give you a really good result. But really, again, think small. Okay, step 3. Icebreaker every day. Okay, so when I do attendance, I'm thinking about, you know, not just seeing who's here. I'm also thinking about like making a meaningful connection with the students. So when I'm doing attendance, I'm taking notes. I have a pen, I have my roster, I'm taking notes. I'm taking notes of what the students say. I'm taking notes of how the students say it. And I try to bring some of that stuff back in conversations. I'm trying to link them. I'm trying to hook them. It's not like you're just watching a video. You're watching a video of somebody who's also watching you. Remind them of that. So for attendance, what I do is I ask them a question. They can't just say here. They need to turn on their camera. It doesn't have to be on their face, but it could be on the wall. It could be on the ceiling, and they could have a stuffed animal. It could just be on their hands, but they have to show that the camera is on. They have to show that they are engaged. And then instead of them just saying here, I take the extra 5-10 minutes to ask them a question. So the question today was, all right, close your eyes. Everybody close your eyes. When I say the word pretzel, what do you picture? Think about, you know, the shape of it, think about the size, think about the texture, think about where you had one. And then when I call your name, I want you to describe this archetypical pretzel. So I had students talk about their pretzel experiences. I don't care about their pretzel experiences. I mean, it's kind of cool, but I care that all of them are listening to each other. They're all feeling comfortable communicating about themselves. And then they're going to have more buy-in, not just into what you have to sell, but they're going to have more buy-in into what their friends say. Like I have students that in normal class normally don't speak up. But when I ask them, create a fictional candle scent, and somebody says something ridiculous that normally wouldn't talk in class, like everyone's like, dude, check out Jim. Like, Jim's like cool. I didn't know that, because in real life, he's a little too scared. So take the extra time, because if everyone is engaged, everything is going to be more efficient and effective. Have you ever given direction and then given students time to do a task, and then like 60% of the class is like, wait, how do you do that again? It's because they weren't with you. They might have been in the room, but they weren't in the room, if you know what I'm saying. And to do that, I found that doing that icebreaker every day like really helps. And take those notes. Like if there was a student that talked about you know, their cat the one day, maybe on Friday I'll talk about their cat. I'll be like, hey, you have Jesse with the black cat. And then Jesse's like, oh yeah, shoot, this is me with my black cat. He's talking to me, and I feel like I am being acknowledged as a person. Even though we're in this really weird, remote, virtual space, I still have needs to feel acknowledged as a person. And I think you can do that as a teacher in something as simple as an icebreaker. And you can just ask them really, really basic questions. What's your favorite color? Ice cream flavor. 2 sports that should never be together. My favorite answer to that was, it was archery and tag, which would be pretty brutal. All right, 4, high tech, low tech. This is something that works really well for me because I teach music, where it's a lot of skill-based stuff, and it's really easy to show things. Like I can say like, all right, now we're gonna play this groove on your desk, and they can like play the groove on their desk. And that might not necessarily translate to, let's say, a math class or an English class. You might not think it can, but it can. So have students move their video recording equipment or whatever, video recording, they don't have video recording equipment, their device. Have them move their device to show different things. So maybe say, all right, we're gonna make flashcards today. I took 25 minutes making flashcards. We were making flashcards together. I treated it kind of like a knitting group. We were like making flashcards, and I was like, okay, everyone move your camera so that you can show yourself making flashcards. And we were making flashcards together. And the way that I do it is I use a ruler and I measure out tick marks and something. And there was a girl who came up with this new way of like dividing the paper just by like folding. It like blew my mind, and I told the whole class that, and we were like celebrating each other. We were just making flashcards, but again, it added more buy-in. And then we were making flashcards. You could put them into learning groups. You can put them into breakout rooms, and they can use the flashcards, these manipulatives, to work on skills, to work on knowledge sets. I think since we're in such a virtual world, we have to think about the way in which students are engaging in the content we want them to learn. I think that as much analog as we can right now is going to make the most impact. So having students write things down, showing it on screen, and I tell them, you need a marker and a piece of paper for every day in my class. A marker because if I used a pen and I showed it on a camera, you're not going to be able to see it. If I asked you to write down a rhythm on a piece of paper with a marker, you're going to be able to see it. Or you could just be creative in whatever your area of study is, and then you can use that. So manipulatives, it's this high tech and low tech. Have students narrate process. So it's really easy to just get stuck in this like loop of, all right, they're going to turn in this assignment. I'm going to grade the assignment. We're going to talk about the assignment. They're going to turn in. I'm going to grade it. What you're doing is you're grading the product. And it's really difficult. I mean, I think the best learning is in the process. So like how the student understands something. Have them narrate the process. I had students like they were doing the scale synthesis thing, and they had to draw it out again. I told them, all right, you're going to have to show, you are creating a YouTube tutorial video, and you have to show, your paper, and then you're going to narrate what you're doing while you're doing it, and you have to use your own words. And I saw, there was a kid that did a voiceover, that did like video transitions. I didn't say do any of that. I said camera on the paper, you're narrating what you're doing so that, you could teach somebody else. And that could be for any subject. And I was seeing people I could tell they spent way more time than I would have taken doing this. And now they really know their major scale synthesis. And they also have more buy-in to everything. And if they had a problem in the process of learning whatever the concept was, then I could fix it. If you just look at the product and you don't know why they made the mistake, it's really difficult to fix something. But if they demonstrate what the process is, in some sort of analog fashion, then you can find where the mistake was in the code, pick it out, remediate, refresh, press play, and then the student can, have that and have that understanding. Call on people. If you're in my class, it's just known. You don't raise your hand in my class. Raising your hand in my class in real life tells me that you want to be called on. And it's cool if you want to be called on. I get it. I understand what it feels like to have the answer and to be screaming, pick me, pick me, pick me in the back of the room, because that's who I was. But in my class, if you raise your hand, I'm not calling on you because you probably already know the answer. I want to know from the person who is scared to death that they don't know the answer, and they just they might as soon as I say, raise your hand, they might just do this. That's who I'm calling on, because then I can help them. And then us as a class can get better. So you could do the same thing in web conferencing. Just set up the expectation right from the top. I'm going to call on everyone today. You don't know who it's going to be. Be ready. And this kind of goes into I also have a participation grade. 40% of the grade in my class is participation, and that is participation on our video conferencing platform. So unless you've had a problem with your like internet, like Wi-Fi is not working or something, the expectation is that you're there, you're ready to get called on. If I call you and you don't get called on, I mark in a little note by your name like you weren't there. You were not participating in class. So it's the extrinsic motivation to get them to participate. I would love it to just be all intrinsic touchy-feelies, like, oh, they want to be there. But that extra like 40% of your grade is if you're there and if you're really in the room. I think that does help with some students. The last one is, I call it plan, test, plan. So the worst feeling as a remote teacher is having something go wrong, having a piece of tech go wrong. You want students to log into the site, half of them can't get in. It's just like, if you're, it's a bad feeling if you're in person. I mean, you have to go around, you help everybody else out, but it's really difficult when, you know, you're 30 miles away and everyone's on, they only have one device in the house. So if it's not working, like, how do you talk to them? It's hard. So plan, test, plan is, you have to plan to create the least restrictive technological environment for your students and for yourself. That means that every single step in the lesson that you want students to do, you've had to have done it already on their device. We use iPads at school. I check everything on the device that the students have so that I know how to fix a problem when it happens, because I've already had all the problems. I make videos of how to fix the problems. I also create alternates to when I know that there's going to be some sort of outage. So our LMS is Canvas. I have all the emails saved in a group on my email. If Canvas is out, I'm sending an email to students with the link for a virtual meeting. If the virtual meeting platform is out, I have a second one ready. Send an email out. It's like, I want to have that class, have that conversation with students about like, okay, if this is not working, this is what we're going to do. If this is not working, this is what we're going to do. If they know that, if they know that workflow, then they're not going to have the same like, oh no, what's going to happen? Because we've scripted it. We've figured out what's going to happen when things don't work, because things aren't going to work. So if that happens, you have to also, if you're teaching remotely, I like to think about me teaching remotely as me teaching synchronous and asynchronous all at the same time. My lesson plans are online and they are super granular. I schedule the entire period and I say, like, we're doing this individually, then we're going to do this in small groups, then we're doing this together, then we're doing this. Each of those chunks has links to what we're doing in case something happened where the cat bit through the phone line and your DSL modem was down and you couldn't get to your web conferencing, so you only had your phone. You could still look and do the class asynchronously. I mean, that does take a whole lot of work on the back end for if your curriculum isn't locked in, if you don't have all your resources together. Luckily, all my resources, I've been working all summer on getting all my resources online, all my walkthrough videos, everything, so that I know if students go to my schedule for the day at 3 p.m. because they couldn't get in at 1 p.m., they still know exactly what they did and they know exactly how to do all those steps. I think those things have really made remote learning enjoyable for me. I love teaching my classes online. I think that I would give it all away in an instant to be back in real life, but I don't think it has to be a slog. It might be difficult for some people because you might not feel comfortable on camera. You're going to have to get comfortable on camera. It might be difficult for some people because you're not organized. There's a reason why this camera is only facing this direction, showing these guitars and this drum. If you looked all around, I'm unorganized. My physical space is unorganized, but I know that my curriculum space, the space that I share with my students, has to be organized. I know that this might be difficult for people because they just don't have time. And you're just going to have to get efficient with the time that we have because it's all about making those meaningful connections with students. if you can get the technology out of the way, if you can present yourself as a genuine person and get students engaged and excited about learning with you, then they are going to be successful and they're going to have fun. Thank you.